Wonderful. So today's session is recorded for those of you that are here, for those of you that need to jump earlier, for those of you that can't make it, and we'll look at this later. So before we start our session, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands on which we're joining from today, and the rich culture of innovation. I would also like to pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and our Aboriginal elders of all community who may be here today. So thank you for joining us for this information session. Today we're going to focus on the Future Mobility Living Lab and give all the useful information for those of you that wish to participate in this Living Lab. We will show you what are the different options to get involved, and we will walk you through the grant application as well as other forms of application to be part of this initiative. So first, before we start, again, we will cover a lot of ground today. There will be a lot of information that hopefully will be useful for you, going from the purpose and the key dates of the initiatives, as well as the eligibility submission and assessment process of the competitive grant that we're running, different opportunities to get involved via expression of interest, and we will walk through the Smarty Grants application form page by page to help you out and give you a chance to ask questions around that. Just a brief housekeeping moment. The chat is active, so you should be able to see both Q&A section as well as the chat. We will stop at times to answer your questions, so we'll divide the session in 3 separate blocks so that we have some moments in between for you to ask questions. If we don't have the answer to some question you might be asking, we will get back to you at a later time via email or through some resources that we share with everyone who registered for this session. Remember that Adam and I are here today in our role as part of the Smart City Innovation Improvement Team of the City of Casey. We will be moderating and managing the process that would enable external organizations to collaborate with the City of Casey in the context of this Future Mobility Living Lab. However, we will not be directly assessing any application, and we will not be able to provide any direct feedback on your project due to the fact that there is a competitive grant process in place. However, we will have all the information for you around the eligibility, the process behind the selection, the timeline, and again, if we don't have if we are in need to ask for some extra questions to our grants team or the internal team, we will get back to you at a later stage. Again, this session is recorded, so we will share an email with you all. Even if you are not able to stay here to be here for the full length of the session, you will receive a link to be able to watch the recording as well as the resources that I will share with you today. Again, feel free to use the chat for the duration of this meeting. However, the chat will then close. So for any further inquiry, you can reach out to us at smartcity@casey.vic.gov.au. So thanks again for joining us today. Before we get to the specifics of the Future Mobility Living Lab, I thought I would get one moment with you all to have Adam, our innovation lead in the City of Casey, to give you some overall information on what is a Living Lab, as many of you might not know what it is. So I'll leave it to you, Adam.
Thanks, Nikki, and welcome everybody to this information session. And as Nikki mentioned, we will record this so you can, and we will publish this session so you can refer to it later on if you find it helpful. The concept of a living lab generally, not specifically just to Future Mobility Living Labs, is to help us as a city and a council help solve complex problems that community have identified along with us in much of our engagement a lot faster by increasing collaboration capabilities with organisations, which could be universities, research organisations, large enterprises, local businesses, etc. And in our experience with previous living labs, it enables us to publish a challenge, an issue, a problem, and it provides a platform for that collaboration to occur. And as Nikki mentioned, it enables us to assist in that collaboration process by not being involved in the decision making of that. So again, our role is to assist as much as we can, but we certainly can't guide. So just the outcomes that we're looking for a living lab is to provide, well, one is to provide the platform to understand these problems further and to explore potential solutions that we may in future scale up with potential partners.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
I'm
Nikki.
sure that getting then into the specifics of this living lab, more solutions, more idea, and more projects will come to mind to those of you that are here today. And it's a collaborative process. So once, if you are selected to be one of the partners of these living labs specifically, you will have an opportunity to workshop very extensively all the work that we do together, and how to best tailor your project or your research to the work that we do, and we'll support you along the way. So going specifically on the Future Mobility Living Lab, this is our third living lab. So the first one was addressing challenges around digital exclusion. The second one that is coming to an end now was focused on circular economy, with 7 projects being rolled out, 7 trials around food and the built environment. This third one is on future mobility, as you know. Within the future mobility, we have identified 3 challenges that are have been established as high priority based on community consultations, that are safety and inclusion, sustainability, and emerging technology. So when we talk about safety and inclusion in mobility, the challenge is how might we enable more significant movement of people with all abilities around the city of Casey. When we talk about sustainability, the challenge is what might we stimulate other modes of transport in the city of Casey besides car, as this would help us address the range of goals that we have around emission reduction. Thirdly, again, Adam and I are from the Smart City Innovation team, so we're always hoping that some emerging technology will be supporting solving some of these local problems. So how might we create a smarter city that promotes safe, inclusive, and sustainable transportation, strengthening community connection? So how can we leverage technology as an enabler of the previous challenges and the different problems that we're looking at for mobility in Casey? Before we get to the specifics of the grant and ways in which you can apply to be part of these initiatives, let me give you a broad overview of what the dates and the timeline for these initiative looks like. So right now, the applications for the Future Mobility Living Lab grants are open. So if you are an organization, until the 19th of September at 5 p.m. You will be able to submit your project for evaluation. There is then a second stage to evaluate and select the successful projects. So on the by the 18th of October, we will be able to communicate who are the successful and non-successful applicants. So you will receive a communication within a month after the closing of the grant. So it's quite a quick process. For those of you who will be successful, please save the date because the ones that are selected will be part of our Innovation Summit at Banjo Place on the 27th of October. It's a one-day innovation event that we run every year, and it will give you a chance to interact face-to-face with council as well as our local community and other local businesses and the other successful applicants of the Future Mobility Living Lab. So it's a great opportunity to kick off these initiatives if you are successful. Thirdly, we will initiate due diligence as well as the contract signing phase. So we will discuss and share with you funding agreement, complete the due diligence, and as well as finalize your project plan and make sure that we're all happy before we initiate project delivery. We are aware that December and January are very quiet months, but nevertheless, you should be able to have everything to kick off your project around December, knowing that there will be some consideration and extra time due to the public holidays in that period. Between December and August, we're looking at 6 to 8 months where if you're successful, you will be able to deliver the project that you got funding and support for, leading us to the end of August, where the project acquittal, the grant acquittal, and all the reporting is due, and that will close the trial phase. That's where we will also have some conversations if the outcomes are positive, and we'll have some conversation as to whether it's possible to continue our collaboration with you. So let's get to the nitty and gritty. I will give you an overview of how you can get involved, and then I will pause a second for Adam to provide some additional context as well for other questions you may have in this specific part. So there are two ways to get engaged and to become part of Future Mobility Living Lab. The most obvious is the grant, that again we'll flesh out and talk about more in a moment. You will choose the pathway of the grant if you are an organization, an eligible organization that is ready with the project. That needs some user testing and some trialing, and that trial can be completed within 6 to 8 months. We will support all along the way, and we will also provide funding. So if you want to deliver a trial, do user testing with us, or deliver a piece of research with the support and the funding of City of Casey, the grant is for you. Make sure that you review in detail the grant eligibility criteria, but I will give you a bit of a refresher on that one soon. There is a second way for you to get included or to apply to be part of the Future Mobility Living Lab. And that is via a very simple 3 minutes expression of interest form. The expression of interest form is conceived for those organizations that don't have a 6 to 8 months project ready to kick off by November. These are expression of interest. The expression of interest form is for those organizations that only want to participate into a showcase type of event or more that we will organize between February and May next year, and that will take place in various community hubs. Submitting through the expression of interest effectively gives you the opportunity of being selected to join some of these events, enabling you to have a free space to showcase your products, your solutions, engage with the local community, run workshops and different types of engagement. In this case, we will not provide any funding. So I will start to explain to you a bit more the governance and details around the grant, and then I will leave Adam to give you a bit more context around the pop-up events and the expression of interest, so that you have a full overview and you can start to understand which one is most suitable in terms of how you would like to be part of the initiative. So let's start with the grant. The eligibility is fairly broad. So if you are a legal entity, for example, a business or a startup with at least 1 year activity, you are eligible. If you are a not-for-profit organization, a registered charity, a social enterprise, cooperative, or community group, you're also eligible. Thirdly, if you are a university or a research institution, that also grants you the eligibility to participate. So it's fairly broad, and if you want to have a look a bit more in detail, please refer to the full grant guidelines. I will then show you where all of these documents are, and make sure that you review these very thoroughly before you start the application, because there's nothing worse than writing a full grant application and then realizing that you're not eligible. Now, if you are eligible and you decide that the grant is the way for you to apply and try to join this initiative, you will find two options within the Smarty Grants form, which is the platform that you will use to apply for this grant. So if you are a business or a not-for-profit and you have a product or solution that you would like to trial for 6 to 8 months, you can apply to become a trial grant. So effectively, your application will be more around delivering and testing a solution for 6 to 8 months with an amount of funding that you request with our support. If you're a university or research institutions, you probably will want to apply for a research grant. So you will not have a service or a product that you want to do user testing on. You will probably want to apply to undertake some research that you will conduct in 6 to 8 months with our support, and also partnering up with the selected trial grant. So you will have a great opportunity to strengthen a piece of research that you might be already conducting around the challenges for future mobility that we discussed before. And these extra funding and exposure and opportunities for collaboration will help you take it to the next level. So both of these opportunities are in the same grant application, in the same Smarty Forms grant that I will walk you through in a minute. But overall, if you are a business or an organization with a service or product to test, you're going to look at a trial grant. If you're a university or research institution, you're likely going to look at a research grant. There are different types of funding available based on whether you want to apply as a trial partner or a research partner. So if you apply for a trial, so again, to user test products and services, you can apply for up to $40,000. These will have to come with a one-to-one co-contribution, and minimum 50% of these will need to be financial. So let's say that the total cost, the total budget of your project is $30,000. You will need to contribute $30,000 yourself, but only $15,000 will need to be a financial contribution that you make. The other 50% can be filled by some in-kind so times and assets that you bring to the project. If you are applying for a research grant, we are offering $10,000 maximum per project, so per each application, and you will not be required to provide any type of co-funding. So you will just require the financial contribution. And in both cases, whether you are applying for a trial grant or a research grant, you will receive the ongoing support of Adam and I and all of our team. We will help you liaise with council and the different departments and teams and team members that you might need to reach out to make sure that your project is successful. And we will also assist you in the delivery of your project with regular check-ins and just making sure that that you're set for success at project delivery stage. So this is not a grant where we just give you the contribution and then I'll see you in 6 months. We will actively be part of the project delivery and support you along the way. You will also, whether you're applying for a trial or a research, you will be part of some of those showcase and pop-up events that I mentioned before that we will organize between February and May next year. So you will have a chance to also be part of these events where you can deliver a variety of activities that range from community engagement, one-to-one feedback, interviews, showcase and feedback. So this is a great opportunity to have extra access to community and to other local businesses to make sure that you have user testing, engagement, as well as opportunities for networking and collaboration embedded in your project. Because again, the Living Lab, it's all about testing, it's all about validating your solution. So it's very important that the community and the users that will benefit from your solution are at the center of your project. So what kind of projects are we looking for? Well, we want to make sure that we are as open as possible because we are not looking for a specific solution. We are looking for any solution that can address the challenges that we have. We are sure about the problems. We don't know exactly what solutions we might need in response to that. And that's why we are looking at you with your expertise, your skills, your technology to guide us and to give us some solutions in response to that. But in a general sense, again, we're looking at grant and project eligibility. You can seek funding for any type of pilot project, so anything that requires the user testing and validation of your solution, community activations and events, as well as research, as we said, with a focus on at least one, but can be more, of the key challenges that we discussed before. You can also apply for projects that have different types of solutions, as well as long as they have a degree of innovation embedded, as well as they have a very data-driven approach to outcomes. So it's very important that you have an analytical and robust approach to demonstrate what are the outcomes and how you're measuring the impact of the activities that you are delivering.
Nikki, if we can just Nikki, if we can just pause there for a second. Also, submissions from multiple organisations are also welcome and considered where there's partnerships. So if you've got a particular challenge and you might have a partner organisation that delivers part of the solution, that is also encouraged.
Absolutely, that's a great point, and it's also part of the evaluation criteria. So it's not the number one or the one with the with the biggest weight within your assessment criteria, but we always encourage organizations to apply as part of a collaboration, because especially when you have a mix of technology or solution, and you also need someone with the expertise to engage community, it's always very beneficial to have multiple voices. So absolutely, collaborative applications are very much encouraged. As we said, the projects will start around November. So once we have completed due diligence, contracts, and your services funding agreement, you will have around 6 to 8 months to complete your project. So keep that in mind when you start your grant application, because if you need a year and a half to make sure that you deliver your project, to your satisfaction, this is probably not the grant for you. The grant guidelines have the full assessment criteria, but if you have any questions around these, feel free to pop them in the chat. Actually, we might stop 1 second for questions around the grant now, before we move to explaining a bit more about the pop-ups and the expression of interest. So is there any question that you want me to look at, Adam, or anything else that you wanted to add?
There's no questions in the chat, so we just might pause and open it up for a second if there are any questions. If you'd like to just enter a question into the chat, we can address that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also
looks like something's coming through.
I'll also paste in the chat the link to our main page. So in this page, you will find all the documentation. Okay,
we have a question from Brett just around, can we dive a bit deeper into measurable outcomes? Okay, that's a great question. Nikki, do you want me to cover that? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great question, Brett. I think the idea of the trialing of potential solutions is to understand whether the solution itself, which we might be testing and trialing in a small sample size or a particular area, or whether that's geographical or a particular demographic or group, to make the trial executable. We want to understand what it is that we're trying to achieve, what are the metrics that we are looking to track during that trial, so then we can then measure those outcomes. We can then look at that and say, well, is that potential solution scalable? And if so, what benefit would we expect to see? We have deployed this method in the Circular Economy Living Lab through impact measurement. For example, if we were looking to reduce carbon emissions, we had one particular group collect coffee grounds, which reduced greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of coffee that they could capture or take from a coffee shop. We did that across 7 locations. We took those grounds to community gardens where they were repurposed. We could track the kilograms of coffee. We could then, in a formulaic way, get a line of sight on how much the greenhouse gas emission impact that was. So it was a very clear outcome, if you like. So that's why we're really keen to understand the metrics that we would be looking at for a particular solution.
Absolutely, and that's why having a technology-based solution in this case, it's sometimes a bit of an advantage, right? Because it gives you a lot of primary data, primary data that instead, when you talk about more complex types of innovation and change that leverage behavioral change, for example, it becomes a bit more complicated to assess and measure when you have only 6 to 8 months.
Does that mean we'd assess the outcomes, or it is part of our role? That's a really good question. This is a co-creation piece. So part of the work that our trial partners would do, as opposed to our pop-up partners, would be to provide the reports of measurement of the outcomes that we're looking at. Now, in some cases, we don't see particular outcomes that we might expect to see, but that might mean that we're learning of other factors. For example, in circular economy, we had a particular startup trying to engage with businesses. They engaged with over 100 businesses around food waste, and there was no support at the business level for a whole range of factors for that initiative. So that doesn't necessarily mean that initiative shouldn't or can't be scaled up. Working with our trial partner to understand what that means, to assess what the data's telling us, and then what actions might we take with the partner to affect that change. In that particular case, we might affect community messaging to apply community pressure on businesses to engage with that particular solution, as an example. So remember, we are testing and trialing. So the expectation is not necessarily defined the outcome that we might envisage at the start in terms of a hypothesis. What we are, a big part of it and through the trialing and through the measurement, is to acquire new knowledge, which might mean that the outcome that we're looking for, we get there, it may not be a straight line path. We also have another question from Brett. Nikki, would we be focusing on passenger experience in public route buses? Any problem in assessing outcomes? Okay, so in your particular case, Brett, you're saying that you're going to be looking at passenger experience in public route buses. Any problem assessing outcomes in that space? It's a good question. I mean, part of the submission that you would make would be, how do you assess the problem that you're trying to solve in that space, and then engage with the community on the solution. Now, you might want to measure that through customer experience, through a net promoter score might be a way to measure that. Is their experience better than what they're experiencing in a current public transport process, as opposed to one that you might be proposing or trialing? So particularly sorry, Nikki, just to close that up, particularly with customer experience and engagement, that's where customer surveying or community surveying would play a role from a measurement perspective. In the case that we explained there with one of our trial partners with Cell, it was very much a metric of engagement with coffee shops and the volume of waste or coffee waste that we were retrieving at that point. We didn't measure customer or community satisfaction with that service in that particular case. One might argue we could and should have, but that was a key metric that we wanted to assess with that particular initiative.
Yeah, so just to give a general recap, I suppose, from the previous Living Labs that we deliver, you are responsible for choosing the methodology of your data collection, your intended outcomes and your target, explaining how and why you have selected certain metrics or why you are gathering data in a certain way. If you are selected, we will sit down and have a workshop before we actually sign off on the targets and the metrics and agree on the goals. Workshopping these and looking at ways to potentially give you extra support if relevant. So if we are able in some ways to support your data gathering, we will do it. We'll workshop that together. But in your application, you on the Smarty Grants form, you will see that you would need to draft and communicate what are your metrics, targets, and how you intend to gather data. So I would set the expectations based on what you can deliver. If we can add some extra value because for some reason we have some extra capacity or open channels, we will most definitely do it. Or, for example, provide you some introductions to teams that manage active communities that might have access to volunteer groups or other type of community groups that you can, for example, ask to fill out a surveys to. So again, we're more like monitoring, but if there's a chance that we can support and make your data collection methodology more robust, we will most definitely help you.
Yep.
And these will be like a process. We'll workshop at the beginning. We will have a touch point around 3 months when you're in 3 months. So if there's some major issues that present themselves, for example, I'm targeting local these specific type of demographic, but this demographic is not engaging, we can get back to the board and find maybe a different approach, leveraging the know-how of other teams in council and leveraging their expertise and previous experience specifically within Casey. From what we've seen in previous editions, it's very beneficial to already have some degree of knowledge and engagement within the city of Casey, because this is where the project will take place. So engagement is something that takes a lot of time. So cater for that if you're not based in Casey, because that doesn't exclude you from applying for the grant or to be part of the initiative. But yeah, cater for the time that it takes to engage and to make sure that you have the response that you need. Finally, at the end of the 6 to 8 months trial, we will sit down again and evaluate. And as Adam said before, sometimes a door closing, it's a lesson learned, and it's something that we can take on board. So we don't see any type of testing, even if it doesn't give the results that you're hoping, as a negative thing. It's all part of the learning. And so this is for the ones that would apply for research or trial via the competitive grant process. But as we said before, if you're not ready with a long project, if you're just starting in this space, if you only want a space to showcase your products or solution, engage with the community, and be part of some shorter 1 or 2 days event, you might not want to apply for the full competitive grant. So let's talk about the pop-up events, Adam, and the expression of interest, so we can close this part before we move on to the Smarty Grants and the homes.
Yep. No, thanks, Nikki. As Nikki mentioned, the other mode of being involved is through pop-ups or an expo type approach. This approach is not supported through the grant funding process. It is done through an expression of interest form. It's quite a simple form. So let me talk to you about the approach of this. We will run a pop-up/expo for each of the themes next year. The final dates will be determined, but it is looking like it would be first week of February, first week of March, first week of April, around those timeframes. We'll update that shortly. And then we'll have a unified pop-up/expo that would combine all those themes together. We are intending to do site visits next week to get an initial idea of those community centres where we would hold those pop-ups. So it's actually taking potential solutions to community, so that if you have a potential solution, you could take it to community to engage with community. That might be another method or a mode to get that community feedback about your particular solution. It also provides additional opportunities to collaborate or co-create potential options with other either trial partners, research partners, or even pop-up exhibitors, if you like. So we're trying to stimulate the engagement process to open up opportunities for startups, small and large businesses, local businesses, social enterprises, anyone in this particular space that has a passion for solving these challenges that we've identified. And it's a multifaceted approach of value that we want to offer anyone who wants to be a pop-up trial partner. A pop-up partner. There are, as mentioned, there is no funding support for that, and we're not charging for that either. It's a free service based on the expression of interest. Are there any? Might just pause there. If you've got any questions around that, just please pop it in the chat. We'll just pause a second.
And while you pause, I would also open the page so I can show you where all of these documents are, as well as the... So feel free to pop questions in the chat, and then we will use the remaining 45 minutes to walk you through more in detail on the grant application, which is a bit more extensive. But as you've seen, the link that I've also shared in the chat, on this page you find the challenge brief, which is a bit of a summary of what we are talking about today. If you're applying for the grant, make sure that you read the full grant guidelines. If you want to only submit the expression of interest, you will find a button here that will take you to the form. As Adam said, it's quite it's very quick to fill out, and it's general for now, so we'll only need to know your company name, your preferred contact. If you have one or more challenges that you would like to address, so the challenges are the same no matter if you apply via expression of interest or grant. What is your mission and activities as an organization? What you would like to bring to these pop-up and public events. As Adam said, we would also plan and look for the most suitable locations based on the successful application. So what kind of activity would you like to carry out? Do you need only a dedicated 3x3 meter space? Do you need some space outdoor to test some electric vehicles, as an example? Do you need a room to engage in a workshop with community? So make sure that you explain what you would like to do, because we will take that into account if you are selected in the type of location that we choose.
I think it's also worth noting, Nikki, just to also clarify and make sure it's really clear, there is no cost to participate as a pop-up partner. However, if you wanted to access rooms at community centres, wherever the locations that we are, and those rooms incur a charge, then you'll have an option whether you want to participate accessing that facility, whether it's rooms or equipment and other facilities within the centres. They would charge, but in terms of the actual Living Lab platform, we don't charge for that. I think I can see that Brett is typing. There might be another question coming through, Nikki. We might just pause for a second before we move on to the next piece, before we go on to the grant writing component.
Yep. No worries. Thanks for coming, Brett.
No, thank you. Thank you, Brett. Thanks for attending. Just to confirm, Brett, this recording will be made publicly available. If you'd like to refer back to it at a later date, you certainly can. And there'll also be there are also links and contact points if anyone would like to have further information clarified.
Absolutely. So I will move on to the grant applications. As we said, if you want to only submit the expression of interest, that should be fairly straightforward. As we know, applying for a grant is a bit more time consuming. So very quickly, a couple of notes on that, and then we'll just walk through the form so you can see exactly what kind of questions you will be asked. And you will also have a chance to ask us any question if you need clarification. So to be able to apply for the grant, you must register for Smarty Grants. We will only accept applications through that platform. The platform has, or the forms that you fill up is on different pages. So make sure that every now and then you just save your application along the way. If you leave it open, your session might expire and you might lose some of your work. Even better, just write your application on a Word document or somewhere external, and then just copy paste into the Smarty Grants form. Might be more user friendly. It takes some time to write and also to make sure that you fill all the mandatory fields, as well as make sure that you stay within the maximum number of words. So make sure that you allow your time to write, to meet all of these criteria across the questions, and also you have a chance, if you want, to upload some additional attachments before you submit. Just a note on that, you can upload additional attachments, but all the essential information need to be addressed via the questions on the Smarty Grants form. So the attachments are a plus. They should not be the center of your application. All the content, all of your project should be addressed and should be fully understandable through the questions. Should not be moved to the attachments as an alternative. If you have any questions, please give us 48 hours to get back to us. Again, you can, if you find yourself with some issues as you fill out the Smarty Grants form, you can reach out to smartcity@casey.vic.gov.au. However, give us a couple of days to get back to you. Sometimes your questions might need some extra time, so allow that time and make sure that your submission is completed by the 19th of September, because at 5 p.m. when it closes, we will not be able to accept any other applications. In terms of project writing, make sure that you address the content of the questions, and make sure that you're very targeted in addressing the problem. We're talking around safety, inclusivity, accessibility. We're talking around the sustainability part of mobility, as well as leveraging emerging technology to enhance mobility. These are three fairly broad challenges that you might have very different solutions and research pieces to develop around. So it doesn't matter how small the target of your project, as long as it's clear. To Adam's example before, for a circular economy living lab, we had challenges around food waste. That is also very general. And we don't expect you to address all the problems, all the challenges that we're putting out there and find a solution in 6 to 8 months. The important thing is that you clearly address the problem and explain very well what is the scope. So in the example of circular economy and in food, if you want to focus, if an applicant wanted to focus only on orange peel, that's perfect. They focus only on orange peel. If you want to focus only on coffee grounds, that's great, as long as, again, it's very clear and the scope and the boundaries of the project are well defined. So don't feel like you need to address everything. It's better for innovation to be like specific and to make sure that you have clear outcomes and clear ways to measure the progress and the success of what you do. And a very clear correlation between problem and the solution that you're proposing in response to that.
Just to pause there for a section, a second, Nikki. Just remember in the writing of the grant submission to keep the rubric in mind, just to give you insights on the assessment process in the context of the grant writing. It will be an independent group of assessors that have expertise in these areas in some cases, or expertise or insights into community. They will not have any real insights into any engagement that the council has had with potential respondents. And in fact, our role is to make sure that we just curate the information so that they can make the assessment purely based on the written submission and the supporting materials. So I think it's, as Nikki was saying, it's really important that you clearly articulate the problem within that theme that you're trying to solve, and really clearly articulate the solution, and have some great supporting evidence of how you're going to execute that and make that measurable as some of the key elements. But keep coming back to the assessment criteria.
Yep, so make sure that you review the detailed assessment criteria, because they are different from trial grants and research grant application. So make sure that you review that in the full grant guidelines. In general, make sure that, again, you write in a very clear, concise manner. Make sure that you answer your question in full. After having reviewed all the information and the detailed assessment criteria. We always recommend using plugins like Grammarly to help correct grammar, make sure that there's no typos, so that improves clarity and facilitates reading from our judges in the scoring panel. Always assume that assessors are not experts in your field, so try to keep it simple and try to be very clear and not use acronyms, because the panel of assessors might have expertises that are a range of expertise that is not as technical as yours. And the best way to make sure that the clarity is there is to get someone external to review your application before submitting. So someone that is not in your company, in your division, and that it's not so entangled with the type of work that you do, because it's always great to have some external eyes to ensure that clarity. Again, make sure that you don't leave everything to the last day and the last hour, because slow internet takes time. The attachment cannot be uploaded. There's always there can be some last minute issues. So remember that we cannot accept any last minute application. So I would definitely make sure that I don't do that at 4:30 p.m. on the last day. And again, all the information needs to be addressed via form. So don't submit the answer to the questions of the form via separate attachments. And just to finish off, and then I'll show you the Smarty Grants form, so we can get into more detail on what we just outlined at a high level. The applications are open until the 19th of September, 5 p.m. Exclusively via Smarty Grants. The day after, we will start to assess the applications only for eligibility. A panel of judges within the city of Casey, selected across different divisions and departments that have the expertise and that can give us support through different lens, will assess your applications, and we might reach out if we need clarification. So when you submit the application on Smarty Grants, make sure that you do it and you highlight the best contact. Don't put the contact of a team member that works 1 day a week, because if we need some clarification, we need to make sure that we can reach out to you quite quickly. So that it's for just to make sure that we have all the selection completed, and the successful applicants advised by the 18th of October, 19th of October. We will advise successful as well as non-successful candidates, and the successful grant and research partners, so the ones that are selected through the grant process, will be part of the Innovation Summit in Buncher Place on the 27th of October. So we have a full day event that we recommend you save the date for, because you will know 1 week before that event if you are selected to join it. And we would like you to, come and introduce yourself and what you're going to do. It's an amazing opportunity. Again, in November, we'll be focused on due diligence, workshops to finalize your projects, agreeing on the scope and the deliverables and the metrics and the outcomes, and initiate the project delivery. So I am going to move straight to the Smarty Grants form for those of you that want to have a bit more detail as to how to apply for the Future Mobility Living Lab grant as a trial partner or as a research partner. So in your page dedicated to organization, you will see here that you have a link to start a grant application, and that will open the Smarty Grants link. As you can see here, you can preview the form, and that's what I'm going to do now, to walk you through different sections of this form. And you'll be able to do the same, as well as download the form so you have a PDF that can help you to write down the content on the Word document before you come up and log into the actual Smarty Grants form for the final submission. So I'm going to zoom in and hopefully that's sufficient. This is the form navigator on the right. Don't get scared. I know it looks long, but it's just because it is made both for trial grant application as well as research grant application. So you will kind of follow two different paths based on which type of grant you will be submitting. So it looks longer than it actually is. Now, if you want to initiate the application, you will first have a pre-application checklist. This is just simple questions that confirm that you've read the grant guidelines. You will find a link to these documents here, and you would also confirm that you're a registered business, that if you're a startup, you've been registered for more than 1 year. So this is just basic eligibility. And this is just the first page that will take you then to the organizational details. This is where, again, you want to confirm the name of your organization, address, what type of organization you are. If you want, just a brief detail of who you are, what you do, size of the organization, and just ABN for basic company information. This is the contact person section. Again, remember to put the best contact, someone that we can always reach out to via phone number or email address in case we need clarification in that application assessment phase. So these two pages are relatively quick, as well as the third one that it's just basic due diligence. If you have public liability, insurance coverage, and how much it is, you will see that the mandatory fields have like a red asterisk. So make sure that you answer these questions that are mandatory, otherwise you won't be able to move to the following page.
Nikki, we just might pause for a second. Just to reiterate, if there are any questions you've got with any stages, we are moving through this at a fairly rapid rate. If there are any questions, please send them in the chat and we can address them. Sorry, Nikki, just wanted to make sure we remind that they can engage at any point.
Absolutely. If anything is not clear, feel free to use the chat, and feel free to pause me if you need, Adam. I'm just going to go a little bit quick in interest of time. So these are just your really basic information that will be part of our due diligence. We need to make sure that you have public liability, professional indemnity. If you don't have any of these, just feel free. Or if you don't have work cover, for example, it's not a problem. You can also tick no, as long as you explain, or as long as you confirm that you will be okay getting one in case you get selected. That is probably not the case for work cover. I assume all of you will have it, but some of you, for example, might not have working with children check because you will be attending some community events. If you are selected, you would need to obtain one. So it's okay if you don't have it now. Feel free to take a no if you don't have it. This doesn't exclude you as long as you're happy to get one should you be selected to participate in these initiative. Now, these 3 pages, as we saw, are just like a checklist and basic due diligence. Now, on the 4th page, this is where we actually start to talk about your project. So the 3 challenges and 3 areas are summarized. And again, you find the link to the challenge brief and the grant guidelines. This is where you check which challenge statement are you proposing to address with your project. So if you have a solution that is specifically addressing safety, you'll only check 1. If your solution you think can span across multiple challenges, you can select more than 1. And here you have just the basic summary of your project. So as you can see, this is a fairly brief summary, 300 words and 200 words, just to explain what is your solution and what is the scope. So as we said before, very important to clarify the scope. We don't expect you to address to take us to net zero emissions in our mobility in 6 months. So if you decide that you're focusing only on bus emissions, that's absolutely fine. Just clarify the scope and say that you are not going, you're going to exclude from your scope, I don't know, residents' cars. Again, you don't feel like you need to tackle and solve all the problems. It's better to be very targeted and clear, and making sure that it's that you have enough time within the scope in 6 to 8 months, because it's a fairly short time to address something in a way that's up to your standards, and that you'll be able to deliver a project that you're happy about. At the end of this page, this is where you say whether you're applying for a research or a trial grant. So if you tick trial, you will be taken to the pages that match with the assessment criteria of the trial. If you tick research, you'll be taken to the pages that match the assessment criteria of the research. So this is where the form will divide into 2 different directions based on what you select. I will guide you through both. I will start with the trial grants. If you submit an application for a trial grant, you will see here you have 3 sections that are community desirability, project viability, feasibility, and there's a 4th, which is partnership and innovation potential. So these 4 pages correspond to the 4 key assessment criteria. So that's why it's important to address these 4 very clearly, because these are the 4 areas that your assessors are going to look at and kind of assess you against those criteria. If you apply for a research grant, you will not see those pages. You will go straight to current research and collaboration, because these are the 2 key assessment criteria for research grants. And then you'll meet again just for the final feedback and declaration. So let's start with the 4 key areas for trial grants, starting from community desirability. So it's a
Nikki,
bit
we
light.
just might pause again.
Yeah,
we just might pause again. If there are any questions from the group, just might take a moment. Just a reminder, just to put that into the chat. We can address those. I'm monitoring those at the moment. So currently there are no additional questions.
Okay. So I'm going to go through the key assessment criteria and sections of the grant for trial partners. So assessment criteria number 1, as we said, is community desirability. This is worth 30%. So this is about, again, the clarity around how your solution is addressing the challenges, how it aligns to the challenges, how it addresses community needs, what kind of evidence, back to our point before around outcomes, what is your evidence? How do you know that your solution is going to produce specific results? And this is where you will also articulate the benefits of your trial. So as you can see, this is kind of translated into these questions. So can you operate in the city of Casey? This is kind of obvious, but yeah, your project will need to take place in the city of Casey. What problem you're addressing. Again, you're clarifying the scope, and add any preliminary research that you've done that can help us understand what is the scale of the problem that you're addressing, how you're addressing specifically the challenge statements, how you will measure the success of your trials. So this is back to, what are your metrics, and what are the methodologies that you are going to utilize to collect data that will help you understand whether you're being successful, whether the project is on the right track. Finally, you have a chance to upload any community documentation. So if you have any documentation that you've gathered through, I don't know, some community group, consultation, previous workshop, feel free to upload it. However, this is not mandatory, but if you have any proof that can show that you're addressing community, specifically City of Casey community needs, that will obviously be beneficial to your application. So that's the first of your 4 criterias. The second criteria for trial grants is around project viability. So this is really only about communicating a detailed and a sound, realistic budget within the bounds, obviously, of the funding available. So just a reminder that if you're applying for a trial grant, you can ask up to $40,000, and this will need to include a 1-to-1 contribution with 50% cash contribution and 50% in kind. Here you will see there's an example tab. So if you have a list of expenditure items that you are requesting via the grant, in this case, the total will be automatically calculated to $30,000. You will need to provide at least $15,000 worth of cash contribution and $15,000 worth of in-kind contribution. So cash contribution will need to be highlighted in the second column. In-kind contribution is in the third column of your budget. And if you want, have a look on the Australian government website to give you a better understanding of what in-kind contribution means. In-kind contribution is anything that you are contributing to the project, but that doesn't have, a financial sum attached to it. It's more, for example, the your time. So if your hourly rate is $30 per hour times 10 hours, that's $300 in-kind contribution for you that you can add to your project. Assets, so the value of utilizing your existing assets, machinery, you don't need to purchase that. So that is not a financial request that you're making. It's not a cash contribution that you're making because you already own a room, a machine, but you can add that as an in-kind contribution if this is going to be central to the delivery of your project. So this tab is just an example that hopefully will guide you to create your own tab with expenditure items, grant request, cash contribution, and in-kind contribution. Remember that this is excluded GST. Once you've filled out the tab, down here, all of these parties auto-generated. So the total contribution, the budget, in kind, all of these will fill out automatically as you complete the table above. A reminder here, the panel might decide to recommend your project, but also recommend part funding on your project. So here you will have a question that says, if you're asking for $30,000, but the panel decides to grant you 20, can your project still go ahead or not? And what kind of adjustments, if so, if you're open to still deliver the project for 20,000, how would you reduce the scope or tweak some of the activities or deliverables to suit a smaller budget, smaller funding. If you think that you would not be able to deliver under that sum, that's okay as well. And you can just say, I would take these only if it's the full amount that I'm requesting. So this is completely up to you. Now, when you look at the project feasibility, what we're looking at is mainly your project plan. We don't need you to go into full detail. It's 30% because obviously we need to make sure that you can deliver on the activities that you're proposing, but we'll sit down and have a look with you, make sure that, if you're selected, there will be some adjustments and some discussions that we will have to finalize your project plan. But if you want to, just showcase the key activities that are part of your project, here you have the key milestones, deliverables, and an approximate time frame. And if you have a more comprehensive project plan, you're welcome to upload it here. It's not mandatory, but you can upload it. Very briefly, do you have a communication plan? So are you planning on sharing about this project via specific channels, online, offline, paper? Is there any specific risk related to your project? Having risk is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means that you are conscious of potential risks or issues or dependencies that might arise as you deliver the project. And if we know them, we can help you address them. So, if there is any type of risk or dependencies in your project, make sure that you add them to the table. So that gives us a chance to support and address them and help out. And finally, here you have a chance to talk about your team. So your capability, what is your capacity to deliver this project? You can upload a team profile if you like, but you don't have to. And finally, only if your solution has a strong technology component, we will need to make sure that you manage that data safely and in line with our privacy guidelines. So we'll just need to know whether you have a risk management plan related to the use of your technology and the management of any type of sensitive information that you might have to manage as you deliver this project. Last but not least, as Adam said before, the last assessment criteria for organizations that apply for the trial is partnership and innovation potential, and it's worth another 10%. So as we said before, it's not mandatory for you to apply as part of a partnership, but we always strongly recommend that you do, because that means that you can bring a more diverse set of skills to the table and to the project. So if there's any collaboration, you would take, are you submitting as part of a collaborative partnership? And if you do, you will have a couple of questions regarding your partners here. So if you tick yes, You will just say, what is the name of the company, name of the partner or organization that collaborates with you, what do they do, and whether they are eligible. You're going to have to testify that they are an eligible organization. If you want, you can also upload a supporting letter from them that says that they will be participating in the trial. Just to let you know, if you are the main applicants in this grant, you are the one that will sign a service and funding agreement with us, not your partner. So you will be responsible for your partner or partners, if more than one, and you will be required to submit to the City of Casey a memorandum of understanding that says that you are the one entering the funding agreement with us, and then you will be responsible for your partner based on your MOU on the specific conditions. So you don't have to worry about MOUs now. This is just to let you know that from a formal perspective, this is what is going to happen if you are the main applicant and if you will be successful and you will be selected as part of a partnership. Finally, whether you are part of an application, a collaborative application or not, you will just give a brief description of how you will use innovation, data, insights to test and trial the solution. So this is the question that will kind of get us to understand in which way your organization or your project is innovative. What is your innovation potential in the application? So these are the 4 key areas that you'll be assessed against when you are applying for a grant as a trial partner. So community desirability, project viability, feasibility, and partner and innovation potential. If you are applying for a trial grant, you will then be taken to the final page that has only the feedback, where you found out about this grant, and a final declaration that says that all of the information you provided are true, and you will also be asked to let us know if you are in any existing funding agreement with the City of Casey that is only a very quick checklist. And this will be the end of your application if you are applying for a trial grant. I will show you very quickly what happens instead if you are applying for a research grant. Is there any question, Adam, before I look at that?
No questions at the moment. Nikki, we might just pause for a second and open it up to any questions that anyone might have, just for 5 or 10 seconds. No, we can keep going.
Wonderful. So if you apply for a research grant, besides the initial checklist, organization, detail, due diligence, and project summary, you will skip straight to the 2 key assessment criteria for research, which are current research and collaboration. So current research, this is the main assessment criteria for universities, research teams, research institutions that apply for this grant. What we're looking for is the evidence that you have or you have been delivering prior research, or that you've published articles that have a focus around those one or more of the key challenges that we want to address as part of the Future Mobility Living Lab. So that is the bigger chunk of information that you'll be required to submit for up to $10,000 of research grant. You will be required to attend pop-up and community events in person, so consider that as well. This is true for trial grants as well as research grants. Remember that with the pop-up and the project taking place in the city of Casey, there will be obviously a lot of activities that you can deliver online, but your physical presence is very much needed. So consider that. If you are a university or a company that is not based around here. We will also look at, as a research partner, whether you can articulate very clearly how your research can assist future mobility solutions. So you would not need to explain to the degree of specificity the project outcomes and metrics, but you will be still asked to explain what is the methodology of your research and how you're going to assess the benefits of what you're delivering as part of these piece. So if you are, you'll be asked whether you're currently undertaking a research with the focus on mobility. If you have participated in a living lab before, we're aware that a lot of universities do run living labs. So it's beneficial. It's definitely helpful for you because that gives you some extra context. That gives you some idea of what to expect from a living lab collaboration. But again, this is not excluding you from being successful. You will be asked to summarize the scope and the topic of the research that you are already delivering within the space of mobility. And you will be, you have a chance to upload articles, research. So any documentation, particularly for research, is beneficial because it can give us. You cannot obviously express the full breadth of the research in such a short form, but that gives us a great understanding if you're able to upload any research that you've conducted or any previous article. So we encourage you to do that. And then you will just describe the research activities that you would like to conduct in these 6 to 8 months, how that aligns the challenge statement, the outcomes, the benefits, and how do you expect to measure success. You will be asked to explain to outline your financial contribution. Again, you can ask up to $10,000 and you don't need to contribute in any way in terms of financial. And you need to confirm that you'll be able to attend in-person events because, as we said, it's very important that you participate in our pop-up events. So this is the first page, pretty straightforward, and this is alone 70% of the assessment criteria. The second page you have is around collaboration. So it's very brief, and we're just looking at these remaining 30% in the assessment criteria as to whether you are a good fit to support, collaborate, co-design, along the trials and the trial partners that will be delivered throughout the living lab. So if you have any way to demonstrate how you would approach these collaboration with other partners of the living lab and other pop-up partners, trial partners, as well as the city of Casey, that will be highly beneficial for these assessment criteria. So the questions are, describe what is your approach to the research, how do you see the collaboration, if you're running a research that you could do anywhere from, you could be currently in New South Wales sitting in front of your computer, probably the Future Mobility Living Lab will not give you as much benefit, and vice versa. So we want to know how your research will benefit from these in-person pop-up collaboration and co-design approach. So explain the research approach, how you will collaborate with trial partners, how it will benefit from in-person activities. Would you like to run interviews, workshops, one-to-one? You can talk a little bit more about that, and what kind of public events will be delivered by you and your team during the pop-ups. So these are the only two sections, current research and collaboration, that you were required to complete if you're requesting a research grant. Finally, same as the trial grant application, you will be taken to the feedback and the final declaration that is pretty straightforward, and I won't repeat again. So this is the full walkthrough Smarty Grants. We have, I believe, 4 final minutes for questions and any final comments if you have any. Oh, you're on mute, Adam.
I'm on mute. Apologies. Just got it. Yes, the video will be published on a website, and we can email you the link for all the attendees. We'll email the link, but also it'll be on the Future Mobility Living Lab site.
Yep. So I will try and send you a public link, but it probably take a couple of days just to get our team to upload it on City of Casey YouTube, and I'll make sure that I share that public link with you, and that it's linked back to the main page for businesses on the Casey Conversation website. Wonderful. Is there any last question? Any last comment for you, Adam, before we close?
No, I think that's very thorough, Nikki. Just wanted to thank everyone attending, and of course, for anyone who's watching this video at a later date, feel free to engage and reach out for questions. There'll be other opportunities to engage on a thematic basis. So this is not the last opportunity or the only opportunity to engage. This was really a highly informative and referential session. So just to guide people through, I guess, the protocols, the governance, the processes, the approach, what we're looking for, assessment criterias. And I think, Nikki, you've done a great job and very comprehensive. Well done today.
Absolutely, and thanks for everyone who came in today and made time for this. We will email you more details, and keep an eye on that Casey Conversation page for businesses, as we have almost a month for grant applications. So we will give some more opportunities for sessions where you can ask some more questions. But in the meantime, feel free to reach out to us on our main email, that is smartcity@casey.vic.gov.au. Thank you again for joining us today, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Nikki. Well done, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay.